Welcome to Talking with Yourself, a podcast designed as a place to learn new things, talk about navigating the world, dealing with mental health, and just life in general. I'm your host, Sam Preston, and thank you so much for being here. Now, let's get into it. Hey everyone. Thanks for tuning in for another episode. Happy Friday or whatever day it is that you're listening on. I'm very excited to be joined by today's guest, who I would love if you could introduce yourself.
Yeah, sure. Hey, I'm Arielle. I'm a fine line tattoo artist in Toronto, but I'm also a PhD candidate at the University of Waterloo.
A tattoo, like having your own tattoo business and a PhD at the same time is insane. Like, how do you even manage that?
Um, I feel like I've always been that kind of person that's super neurotic and has like everything planned down to the hour. And I don't know, I like to pretend that I'm one of those spontaneous people where you can message me and be like, hey, you want to hang out today? But in reality, I'm not. I need multiple days' notice in advance for many things. And that's because of how like neurotic my internal organization system works. But I think the main reason why I can do both is because I have such a passion for tattooing that I don't want to give it up. And even though I'm still in school and I'm really set on finishing it and seeing it out, I know that tattooing is ultimately what brings me happiness. So it's kind of just about prioritizing for me, I guess. And I've learned since COVID, I guess, how to prioritize me and myself and my happiness. I kind of started off with like self care and like what can I do to make myself happy? And I don't know, I kind of find all of those things within tattooing. Like I get to meet cool people like yourself. I get to talk to
Aw.
others. I get to have cool conversations. Like I feel like it fills my social battery needs and it also fills my like creativity and art needs. And then school is kind of like my work, my like 9 to 5, except it's more like 5 to 9.
School is the job, tattooing is the fun part. It's definitely so hard to at times like or not focus, but kind of determine what makes you happy and what's going to be like the best for you, and to be able to be like, yeah, I love tattooing and it's something I really want to pursue and I don't want to give up is so important to figure out. How long have you been tattooing for?
Well, I kind of started during the pandemic in 2020, but I started tattooing like myself and my friends, and of course, practicing a bunch. I didn't really take it seriously, like going getting the license and doing it on a lot of other people and charging for it until a couple of years ago. It's kind of a mishmash between 5 years and 2 years of tattooing casually, like for fun, and then actually taking it seriously as, I guess, a job, although it doesn't really feel like a job.
The best work is the ones that don't feel like work.
Yeah, definitely.
How many tattoos did you end up giving yourself? I feel like I could never imagine trying to do it on myself.
Just a few on my left arm, and I don't know, I always equate it to driving. I feel like a lot of people have asked me about this. I prefer to be the person driving than like being a passenger because I know like when I'm gonna turn or when I'm gonna brake or like if another car jumps in front of me, I can kind of like see what's going on and I know what move to make or I know what to expect or what to anticipate. And when I'm a passenger, I'm kind of just giving that all up and I'm just there for the ride. And although both are equally fun, I still prefer to be the driver, hence the like crazy neurotic organization part of myself. So tattooing myself is kind of like that, where I know what to expect. I know exactly the moment like the needle is going to hit my skin. I know exactly how deep I'm going or how hard I'm pushing or what it's going to feel like when I'm wiping or all those things. So I know what to expect and I'm in control of like if I want to stop, I can stop and all those things and I can take my time or I can like watch a show or I can like listen to something and yeah, I feel like I would much prefer to do it to myself. Just sometimes it's really hard to like be folded over in half and like tattooing myself in uncomfortable positions. And yeah, I don't know. It's hard, but also I think my need to know what to expect kind of trumps stretching.
Yeah. I had a friend who was an apprentice a while back, and she was practicing on her legs. And I was like, I don't know how you sit there for like a good like half hour hunched over your knee doing this. They look so painful.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah, it is more uncomfortable to do it on yourself. But I'll say even like just being a tattoo artist in general, you're kind of hunched over in shrimp mode all day. So I'm kind of used to the back pain of being folded in half all day long
Yeah.
anyway. So
I guess you kind of get used to it at some point.
yeah, exactly.
Do you have to have like a certain number of hours tattooing or anything like that? Because I know you mentioned getting a license. Like, what are the things that they required from you for that?
Okay, well in Canada, it's actually really weird that you don't need a license as a tattoo artist.
Oh,
The space that you're tattooing in is what needs to be licensed. So, like in my studio, you could tattoo me, and that would be totally legal and fine because my actual studio is what is licensed, but the individual person doesn't need a license, which I think is so weird. I think it
yeah.
should be the other
I
way around.
That's what I would have
And in other
assumed.
countries, it's like that. It's like in the States, you have to get licensed as an actual tattoo artist, and then you can go and tattoo anywhere. But here, it's the space that you are tattooing is what needs to be licensed. So, as the owner of the space, you have to maintain a certain standard of cleanliness and sanitization and have all the correct equipment and different processing sinks and units. And you have to demonstrate that you're like competent in bloodborne pathogen diseases and all that. But the actual person could just do whatever they wanted in the space. Yeah.
So, like, I having no experience with tattoos other than being tattooed could just like walk into a licensed space and immediately like give someone a tattoo.
Yeah, technically speaking, yeah.
That's
I
actually
mean,
crazy.
I'm sure the owner wouldn't want to take on that liability, and
Yeah.
that's why like insurance, like business insurance for tattoo studios are through the roof. Just in case someone wants to like sue you or anything like that. But yeah, technically speaking, you could just do that. And I think that's so dumb. I think that they should make people take at least some kind of like exam, like first aid or bloodborne pathogen exam, or like something that shows that you understand that you're working with needles and potentially people's like blood and body fluids and yeah.
I was fully under the impression that like you had to log a certain number of hours as like an apprentice and do all these things and like whatever, and it's just as long as you can prove to them that you're semi-competent in cleanliness, it's like here you go.
Yeah, no, it's not like that at all. I'm actually still to this day very confused about like even the term of being an apprentice. It's so subjective. Like at what point do you stop being an apprentice? You could be tattooing for 10 years and still talk about yourself as if you're an apprentice. Or you could be tattooing for 3 months and consider yourself no longer an apprentice. It's kind of up. to the person and whoever's teaching them or whoever's kind of taking charge of their liability, they just decide amongst themselves. I don't know. It's very
Yeah.
confusing.
Well, it's so tough because like tattooing is such a wide thing and it's so subjective that it's, I guess, yeah, like how do you look at someone you're teaching and you're like, yeah, you're no longer a quote unquote apprentice, like you're free to go out and tattoo as you please.
Yeah, there's really no standard, at least in Toronto or Canada, there isn't. And even the way that I learned how to tattoo is extremely controversial because I taught myself by watching YouTube videos and like practicing with fake skin, which is nothing like real skin at all. And like the fact that I taught myself and didn't go through paying my dues and spending years at a tattoo shop, like cleaning the floor before I even get to touch like real skin. And yeah, I've been on Instagram, there's been a lot of people from the more traditional tattoo community that are really against like my kind of work and the fact that I advertise that I taught myself and talk about that freely. That's like a big no-no for some people. But at the same time, I think that those standards are such a barrier and don't let people who don't have the means to go through that be able to become tattoo artists. I think that's like a very privileged mindset that you're going to work for somebody for free for many years before you actually get to hone your craft and like make a career out of it.
And there's so much stuff out there on the internet that teaching yourself, like, I don't want to say it's easy, but like it's very easy to find ways to teach yourself. And in a way, I feel like teaching yourself might even be more difficult because you don't have somebody there real time walking you through things. If you make a mistake or you mess something up, you don't immediately have someone sitting there saying, this is what happened, this is why it turned out the way it did. And you kind of have to go through that difficulty of figuring it out yourself, what went wrong.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Although you'd be surprised. I feel like online or on YouTube at least, if something was going wrong and I like couldn't figure out like, oh, am I going too deep or what's going on or why does my tattoo look like that? Why is my ink spilling everywhere? There was always a video for every question that I had. Like, I feel like on the internet, it's just such a wide resource, and we're just so far into technology that you could literally ask ChatGPT and it could tell you how to tattoo. And I've even seen like freaking AI robots tattooing now and like doing lashes and
That's
manicures. I don't know if you've seen that on TikTok. Yeah.
no,
So like
that's crazy.
yeah, the future is here. Although, I don't know, I do agree to some extent, you need to know basic, hygiene things when it comes to tattooing. I think it's so different from doing a manicure or anything like that because you're dealing with people's health and like their bodies and you can transmit different diseases. And I don't think I don't think anybody should be held to that standard. There's reasons why nurses have to go to school for that long and doctors and whatnot. So I don't know. There's two sides to the coin. One is that the internet is a great resource, and so many people can learn whatever it is that they want to learn with limited around amounts of resources and knowledge. But the other side is that you want someone to be like competent, and when you're gonna go and get a tattoo from them, you want to make sure that you're gonna walk away with a good tattoo and not some kind of blood poisoning.
Yeah, for sure. It's like if you're going to a hairdresser or getting a manicure, it's like if they mess up on your nail shape or they cut your hair too short, like it's going to grow back. But as a tattoo artist, like these are things you're putting on people's bodies pretty much permanently. And
Yeah.
I think that the internet is a great resource if you know how to utilize it. And if you're like able to actually properly teach yourself, learning on the internet, then it's absolutely fine.
I agree. But there is like such a big cohort of people that like, when you're in university and you're just getting drunk one night and you and your friends order a stick and poke kit from Amazon and you're all like tattooing each other and whatever. Like, I feel like everybody has a story like that, or a lot of people that I know have done that. And I think that that could be dangerous, and that side of things is probably not good, that you can just order that off of Amazon and kind of mess around with stuff like that. But on the other hand, the way that I learned how to tattoo is that I literally ordered my first tattoo machine off of Amazon because it was what was affordable, and that's what I started to use when I was practicing. So I don't know. I don't know how I feel about it. Also, funny enough that you say is the license for meeting a tattoo studio in Canada is the exact same license for owning a hair salon called Body Safe.
Really?
So it's like the exact same requirements for cutting hair as tattooing.
That's
I don't know if it's because
insane.
they're holding scissors next to your head or what the heck it is, but yeah, it's the same.
Maybe. I guess like you're like shaving someone's head and you like break skin or something. I don't know.
I don't
That
know
is
either. Yeah, it's
crazy.
so strange. Yeah.
What made you want to get into tattooing in the first place?
I think I was always fascinated with tattoos. Like, I had tattoos before I started learning, and I've always loved tattoos. Like, I'm not a person that's fully covered in them. I have like a lot of tiny tattoos, and I think I've always loved that aesthetic. But right before the pandemic, my dog passed away. She was 13 at the time, and I had an appointment to get just like the first letter of her name, the letter J, tattooed on me. And at the time, it was really hard to find somebody that wanted to tattoo just like something really tiny. But I did find somebody, and obviously COVID happens, lockdown happens, my appointment gets canceled, and eventually at some point I was just like, I don't know, my toxic brain was just like, how hard can this be? It's just like a super tiny letter of the alphabet. What if I did it on myself? So, yeah, like I said, I got everything off of Amazon. I watched a bunch of YouTube videos. I just kind of like went down that rabbit hole, and then yeah, I tattooed the letter J on myself, and I like showed my friends, and they were all like, "Oh my God, that's so cool." And then my friends asked for tattoos, and then I tattooed them, and then I posted on my Instagram and saying I'm looking for people that I want to practice on. And at first I was like, who's gonna sign up for that? But a lot of people did. And I guess I just got lucky. It just kind of snowballed from there. And then eventually I took it seriously, and I was like, okay, I want to open up my own space. I want to be able to do this full time. I want to take this seriously and like see, can this be some kind of career or feasible job where I can financially support myself off of it? And yeah, I'm still working towards that, but here I am all these years later, still doing it.
Yeah, like it's definitely a hard process and it's something that takes a lot of work towards. And I feel like you're a very good testament to that of like working hard over the years and putting a lot of your time and effort into it. It shows in getting clients, in being able to have your own business and create your own space. Do you have a favorite tattoo that like you have?
Like of my own?
Yeah.
Gosh, I don't know. So I have one arm that's like my meaningful tattoo arm, and then I have one arm that's like my silly fun, I just like this aesthetic kind of arm. And sometimes I'll switch between like, oh, I really love this super meaningful piece that reminds me of my family or like this important time in my life. And then other times I'm like, I love my other arm because it's just so me, and it like makes me feel free, and I feel like I'm decorating my avatar in my life of a video game. And so I don't know. I couldn't pick a favorite. I like them all, and I definitely bounce between like, I want more meaningful things or I want more aesthetic things. If that makes sense.
People sometimes don't realize that like not all tattoos have to be meaningful. And they don't all have to
Yeah.
have this story or this sentimental meaning behind them. Like, it can just be for fun. You did that one for me a bit ago, which I have to say, I'm still in love with it and it turned out amazing. But that one was just for fun. I call it my fuck it tattoo because, like, screw it. I wanted it, you know? Do you notice any other common misconceptions a lot of people have with tattoos?
Uh, Definitely the meaning of pieces that some people really think that you shouldn't get a tattoo unless it's super meaningful because then you're going to regret it and it's a commitment and you need to make sure that you like think about your tattoo before you get it. But I've definitely seen the complete opposite of that being challenged. I even have like a get what you get gumball machine where you spin it and whatever design pops out, you have to get it. And I'm always so surprised that anybody wants to do that at all because I'm certainly not that kind of person. But there's definitely lots of people out there that are just like, fuck it. Life's too short. Let's just do it. And yeah, that's definitely a challenge. But another one I would say a misconception is the size of people's tattoos, and especially my kind of work with fine line tattoos. I would say that I've been told several times by other tattoo artists that what I do is not considered like real tattooing, and doing tiny tattoos or fine line tattoos is not considered like an actual art or an actual craft. And I think that that's so not fair and so not true. I think like especially recently, it's more popular to get tiny tattoos and more celebrities are getting them. And I think people are honing in more into this like delicate feminine side of themselves, at least my clientele is. And I really love that style for myself personally. I kind of have this like rule of thumb where I'm not going to tattoo anything on anyone unless I would get that design myself. So because I love that kind of style, that's what I love to offer. And I feel like that's how I stay so in love with this job that I have. And it does genuinely make me happy. But yeah, there's always that like negative talk in the background of people on social media saying that that's like not real, and that it's not difficult. But also, side note, doing fine line tattoos is, I would say, more difficult for me personally than thicker tattoos, just because, or shaded tattoos, because there's less wiggle room for mistakes. Like it's a very visible, and you have to be very precise, and you have to really know what you're doing for it to look good. But yeah, those are kind of like the two main misconceptions that people talk about.
That's crazy that someone would say that because I do agree where I have always assumed fine line is way more difficult. And even just in general, like there's so many different types of tattooing styles out there that to say one of them isn't considered tattooing is crazy.
Yeah, it is crazy. I think, like, to be fair, it, I don't know if well, okay. I've received those comments from a lot of older men. And I know of a lot of clients that will come to me and say that they have gone to those artists and they asked for like a tiny tattoo or a thin tattoo, and they've been told that it's not possible or that such a thing doesn't exist and it can't be smaller and it can't be thinner. And while that is true to some extent, like not everything can be tiny. If it's super detailed, for example, you have to take out some of the detailing to make it look good forever if it's tiny and whatnot. But I find that a lot of people are kind of gaslighted into thinking that that's not possible just because that particular artist is not familiar with that style or doesn't like that style themselves. So a lot of clients that I have will come to me and show me like a really thick or big tattoo and tell me that they wish that they were able to get it smaller or that they wish they found me sooner so I could have done it for them smaller or thinner. Um, But definitely it's like I said before, it's a lot more of a popular style now, like these last few years especially, and more tattoo artists offer fine line styles. So I feel like it's easier to find someone that will do it now. But I still get those people that are all like, oh, this is not a real tattoo and there's no color and there's no shading and we're using a tiny needle and that's just for like girls and girls are not real
Oh my
people who get
God.
real tattoos. Yeah, just like a lot of sexism, I feel like is where it stems from.
Well, I think a lot of people think tattoos and they immediately go to like big burly biker men, and it's like, no, I'm 5'1" and I have tattoos and like I love them and all this
Yeah,
stuff. I get telling somebody, no, I can't do that tattoo. It's not my forte. It's not my like expertise. But to tell somebody, no, it can't be done, period, is insane, especially in tattooing, where again,
yeah,
there's so much versatility.
yeah, definitely. I think it's just also like a competitive factor as well. They don't want to lose that client. They don't want to like lose out on the business. And tattooing is such a competitive field. I find that tattoo artists aren't always as kind to each other. Um, it's definitely not like that in Toronto, but in other cities, I found that um, just because there's so many tattooers and tattoo shops and so many options and so many places, and social media is just like one big competitive void that you can get lost down. But yeah, to be fair, not all big burly tattoo studios are like that, but from my personal experience, I found that they can be.
Yeah, especially if it's such a competitive field. Unfortunately, people don't usually turn to the nicest methods.
Yeah.
Was there, when you were starting out with tattooing, was there like something that made you be like, yes, I specifically want to do fine line? Or was it just kind of always from the start, you just somehow knew fine line was your thing?
Yeah, I think I knew fine line was always my thing because that's what I wanted for my own personal tattoos and that's just like the style that I like. But when I opened up my space, like one of my goals, I guess, was that I really wanted to focus on making a safe space for women and queer people because I feel like at the time there weren't a lot of tattoo studios that were doing that. And as a woman myself, every time I would go into an intimidating tattoo studio where they're playing metal music and the walls are painted black and my tattoo artist is a guy, I don't really feel the most comfortable taking off my shirt, or I don't feel the most comfortable asking if the design can be changed or just challenging that kind of authority almost. And I knew that when I wanted to set up my own space. I wanted to create a place that made people feel like they could ask to move the stencil, or they could ask to make it smaller, or they could show up in their sweatpants and feel comfortable, or they would be okay with being vulnerable because that's what I think getting a tattoo is. You're kind of being vulnerable with your tattoo artist. You're letting them change you forever. So I just wanted to create like a more equal playing ground for that exchange of energy, if that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, like the space that you're getting tattooed in is pretty much as important as the process of getting tattooed. And it's I'm not a very confrontational person. I am a huge people pleaser. I hate asking people to like, essentially, like when I'm getting tattoos, I'm always just so scared of like, actually, like I'm not happy with this position or this and this. And it's when you're in a space that is so welcoming and it's so calming, and to some people maybe that is black walls and metal music and some guy you barely know,
Yeah.
but like that's not my thing. I prefer like the calm vibe, the calm music, the welcoming people who like kind of act like they want to be your friend. And those spaces make you feel so much safer to be like, can you move the stencil? Can you add this? Can you change this thing? And it's pretty much as important as sitting down and letting someone change your body forever.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, exactly. And I feel like for me, I didn't feel comfortable in that kind of space. And I know there are definitely people that do feel comfortable. But yeah, I wanted to make a space where if I was a client and I was getting a tattoo, like how would I feel? And I guess because of that, I am reciprocated with clients that do match my vibe and do match like what I like, and that's why I feel like I'm able to do so many designs that I absolutely love doing, and I couldn't pick my favorite all-time tattoo that I've ever done on somebody because every tattoo that I do on my clients is something that I absolutely love. And yeah, I'm so lucky that I feel like I found what really brings me joy in that and meeting cool people that I vibe with really well.
Yeah, it definitely adds to the factor of enjoying your job and enjoying what you do because you're putting out this vibe that you really love and this persona that you really love and resonate with. And in return, you're getting people who resonate with that same vibe and that same personality. And it's a really good exchange because then you're also enjoying your work and you're having fun with it. And it kind of makes the products better because half of it is, well, I guess majority of it is getting that tattoo, but I feel like part of it is the experience and going out and interacting with somebody as they do your tattoo and having fun with it and things like that.
Yeah, exactly. 100%.
I think we're pretty much near the end of the episode now. I normally like to have my guests kind of give affirmations or just a nice little message to send off my listeners. So I was wondering if you had one to send us off with.
Okay. An affirmation. I feel okay, this might not necessarily be an affirmation per se, but it's something that I say to myself all the time that I saw like on Pinterest randomly one day. Um, I'm a worrier, and because I'm a future planner, I'm always worried about the future, and I'm always thinking like about what if it all goes wrong, and what if I do something completely wrong, or what if I'm not good enough, or what if something horrible happens, or I always go down the spiral of what's the worst possible scenario that can happen and how do I avoid it and prepare for it at all costs. And that's definitely I found for myself to be a very like toxic spiral to be going down and thinking about all the time. So I saw this quote on Pinterest that just says, "What if it all goes right?" And I don't know, that was like a huge shift for me. And I always like do this thing where I like look in the mirror and I'm like, what if it all goes right? What if you are good enough? What if you don't mess up and it goes perfectly amazing? And what if this is all meant to be? And just, yeah, trying to challenge each of my negative thoughts with a what if and then a positive thought. So, yeah, maybe that will help somebody.
Yeah, I feel like you fall down that spiral of what if this thing goes bad and what if that bad thing happens? And then to counter it with, but what if it doesn't? What if everything just works out fine in the way it's supposed to?
Yeah, exactly.
Where can people find you?
On Instagram at Studio Flora Tattoos.
And so hopefully if they're looking for a tattoo soon and they're in the Toronto area, they hop on there and they book themselves an appointment because I will attest you are an amazing artist and you did amazing with the one that I asked you to do.
Aw, thank
Thank
you.
you.
I'm so glad
Yeah.
to hear that.
Well, thank you for joining me. I'm really glad we got to do this. And I really hope that whoever's listening at least checks you out and sees some of your work and gives you a little support some way or another.
Thank you
And
so,
to,
so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
yeah, of course, to everyone listening as well, thank you. And I hope you and everyone listening has an amazing day. And I'll talk to everybody next week.